Perfect.
Hi, Liz. Thank you so much for helping my project. Could you say a little bit about yourself?
Oh, what do you want me to share? My name's Liz Steichen. I'm a 44-year-old mother of two. We met through Inspiration 4 competition for the Prosperity Seat, and I'm actually really excited to be able to talk to you today. So other than that, I'm a former ER ICU nurse that's been away from the field now for a couple of years, just before COVID, actually, about 6 or 8 months before COVID. Inventor, entrepreneur, all around snowboard fanatic, and just, life adventure. So another one of the humans on this planet going through space.
And I know you're also on a mission to address issues with tangled and IV lines.
Yeah. Well, because IV lines have been a big part of what I do, one of the big things that created anxiety in my world was when I got to my shift and we have to check those lines with the nurse going off. And when we trade out again, we have to do the same thing. And when you've got really critical patients, there's a lot of IV lines going a lot of different places. And then there's other tubes as well. And they tend to somehow miraculously braid themselves together, create babies, wrap themselves up, knot themselves, and end up in places where they just don't belong, which unfortunately can be very, very dangerous for our patient and technically the nurse as well. But I just got to the point where I was like, why do we still have this problem? It's very old and it's not solved. Let's fix this. So yeah, just an off chance conversation with a friend of mine about it one night. 6 or 8 months later, he's like, I want you to tell my friend about this thing that you told me about. I'm thinking, what in the heck is he talking about? Lo and behold, it was my IV line organizer. So ultimately, that's sort of how it came to be.
And I take it that's not the only invention you've been doing.
Well, it is the biggest one. It's there's a few, it's the one I work on and sort of have the largest motivation and move forward on, right? And personally, I think it's because it's probably the most life-changing, ultimately, in the way of what can be the outcome for a patient, what can be the outcome for a nurse, and the fact that it's a multi-billion-dollar problem, but it's a global problem. So I would like to see it save a few lives if we can.
That would be awesome. So what got you into nursing?
That's a great question. My mom. Not because I wanted to be a nurse, but because I needed to do something quite rapidly. I grew up with my mom as a nurse, and she was a unit director and director of nursing at one point. And if you had asked me at that time if I wanted to be a nurse, my answer would have been, oh, hell no. No, going absolutely a different direction, never going to go that way with my life. Fast forward a number of years to 18-year-old married. Shortly thereafter, having a baby in just outside of Belfast, Northern Ireland, a little place called Antrim, and then pregnant with my second. And we decided we didn't want to raise our children in that environment. It was just too toxic. And kids were, just didn't realize what they were doing, saying, and just keeping that issue going. And so we moved back to Canada, but in doing that, I had to do something to support my family. And when you immigrate, you can't immediately start working if you're the person that's immigrating in. So it was left to me. So I was a full-time student, and then I became a mother of two in the middle of my second semester. And it was a pretty decent paid job in a short education time frame for what I was doing. And then I learned I was quite passionate about it after that. It's funny how you fall into something that you're just meant to be at. The last place I wanted to go, last thing I wanted to do. And, I've had the opportunity to really touch and be touched by thousands and thousands of people's lives. And there's nothing like that in the world.
My mother was also a nurse. In fact, she did home health.
So
And
you know what I'm talking about.
yeah,
She's a brave lady, home health. Oh, wow. That's brave.
well, and also whenever she was a home health nurse, it was like the 80s, and times were different then. So
Yes.
I used to go with her on her home health calls and get to meet the
Aw.
patients. And you know, they would be so happy to see like this 8-year-old. And
Right. Because you're joy. You're pure
yeah,
joy at that point, you know?
but now that would be completely illegal and inappropriate.
Well, they would say it is, but you know, sometimes it's what they need, you know, like some of the things that we are guarded against and have laws governing, I mean, precludes some of the most healing moments that we can have. And it's just by sheer chance and opportunity that, you know, I get to be involved in some of those, but I realize very much how much governance over here, definitely in the Western side of the planet, makes a difference. Like just Eastern medicine has a totally different feel to it and whatnot. It's just one of those things. Like if I could blend all of the experiences from all over the places that I've had and bring them together, it'd be a really cool healthcare experiment in my world. But I don't know if the rest of the world would feel that way. But I think there's a lot to be said about overregulation.
Absolutely. Yeah. My
And maybe in
dad,
some areas not enough, like the IV lines.
yeah. My dad happens to be a lawyer who does compliance programs for home health agencies. And
Oh my
so
goodness.
I've seen some of his videos about counseling healthcare professionals about what they can and can't do. And it's like really,
And we're
really
supposed to remember
restrictive.
all that while we're trying to care for a patient in crises. Like,
Yeah,
what? Yeah.
exactly.
But what a marriage made in heaven. I mean,
Our,
how did that come
maybe,
about? I'm almost curious
maybe,
about that.
I don't know. Well, it didn't actually work out that way. I think my dad originally was in a different area of law, and then the home health part actually brought him into it. So
I could see that because it affects your entire family, whether we want to admit to that or not. There were days I'd come home and it was just it was a ripple effect, you know, as much as you try to leave it. No, it's too, especially in critical care. I mean, in all aspects of healthcare, let's be honest, but um, critical care is just one of those high intensity, high emotional, and you got to keep it all in check, right? When you're at work and then you're processing on your way home. It's sometimes it just doesn't get all checked away before you walk through that door as much as you would like to think it had, you know, and it ripples out. But I can see how that would have worked, especially with home health and legalities. So you become passionate about things that you're close to, huh?
exactly, kind of get sucked in as it were.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So now, how did you not end up in the like healthcare, medical, some sort of field?
Well, I wanted to
Legal.
be a doctor, but whenever I graduated from high school in like '94, the internet was just taking off, and
Oh
I
yeah,
was
I remember
interested
those
in,
days clearly. I graduated a year later.
and so anybody who had any interest in computers, you know, had a job. And once you have the first job, you have the second job, and once you have a wife and kids, you're not
Just
really thinking about career options at that point.
you're not thinking of changing careers very quickly, are you?
No, you're
Or
like,
spending time in school again.
yeah. Though it took me until 2005 to graduate with my bachelor's.
You know, that's a really funny comment. And I say that not because it was funny that it took you until 2005 to get your bachelor's. So, somehow, no word of a lie, I graduated high school supposedly. And it wasn't until I had gotten married, I'd moved over to the United Kingdom, had to provide all my documentation over there, come back to Canada, join the army, leave the army, become a nurse somewhere in the midst of all of that mess, then move to the United States, got divorced in the middle in there somewhere, got married again, moved to the United States after, or just previous to getting married again. And the United States wanted documentation, right? Which I'm like, yeah, no problem. I've done this like how many times now? Like, this is not a big deal. And I phoned my mom and I'm like, hey, mom, do you have my diploma from like high school? Because I moved right like on the back end of, I moved in the middle of, I want to say March 1996. And it was supposed to go to my parents' house. So I figured that's where it was. I was like, I've never seen it. It's 2005. And I started thinking about it. I'm like, wait a minute. I don't know if I've ever seen it. So ironically, my dad worked at the time for the education system, and he was way up in the C-suite kind of group. He was one of the special ministers of finance for the entire education system for the province I grew up in. So not a low-ranking somebody just in one of the schools. So my last name wasn't unknown. And so when I called up to ask for my diploma, I just got a copy of my diploma transcripts. The lady looks up and she's like, oh, are you so-and-so's daughter? And I was like, yeah, yeah. And she goes, are you aware that you haven't graduated yet?
Whoa.
I'm like, excuse me? I've gone to college. I've gone to the military. I'm a nurse. What do you mean I haven't graduated? She says, well, what have you been doing for the last 10 years? I said, I'm like, I just told you. She's like, congratulations, you just graduated high school with your advanced diploma.
Wow.
Which they stopped giving out like 2 years after I graduated. So I have like one of probably the only one in existence that's dated 2005 for a diploma that doesn't exist after like 1997, I think it was. But how do you do that? How do you go to school? How do you like go to college? How do you join the military when you were supposed to be a high school graduate? So that was fun. Yeah, that was miraculous on my world. I was like, I don't know how I pulled that off, but thankfully it hasn't stopped anything from happening, or it didn't. My life just kept on rolling like it was there. I didn't know. That was that was one of the stories that I really like held on to for a minute because I didn't want to tell my parents. It took me 10 extra years.
Did they tell you like were you like missing a PE credit or something silly like that?
It was I don't even think I asked. I was just so much shock. Like, what do you mean? Like, I cap and gown, the whole thing went to, you guys call it prom, we just call it graduation. I mean, literally the whole thing with like the whole class. And I went to a large school, so it wasn't like there was just a few of us, but it was a big deal. And they don't let you walk if you're not graduating. So it may have been a difference between the advanced diploma and the non-advanced diploma, but they didn't reward me either. Which I can't tell you what it was. I don't know. But she was like, you've become a nurse, you've gone to the military, you had babies, you got life experience, you've traveled around the world. That's called 3 life experience credits. Yes. Congratulations. It's just like, this is the most weird. That. Yeah, I wanted to wake up. I thought I was like, this is the weirdest dream I've ever been in. Yeah. It wasn't fantastic. A dream. Yeah. Yeah. I've got fun stories about life like that. I've had one of those really, I've been lucky. I've had a really, as much as it's been a hard journey, I've had incredible experiences throughout it. So I can't complain.
Well, how did you find out about Inspiration4?
That's a bit of a story. You would know Zachary Albert, I'm sure. TLP,
the Launchpad.
The Launchpad, yeah, yeah. He's my nephew.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah. So he just mentioned it one day, just thinking it would bring some exposure to IVLO. And I don't know if it did or didn't. It is what it is. It was a great experience though. And, just been so lucky about having that journey and definitely participating with that last minute ability to make it to the launch, being able just to, get to know a lot of the fellow people from what we refer to as the I-24 crew, as you know, just so many great people, so many experiences, so much in the way of life and joy, and just loving the adventure of space and being able to go and experience that. Unfortunately, I didn't get to meet everybody. In fact, I didn't actually meet anybody at the launch day. But we were really on a strict time crunch, and there was some other things going on. Who knew? My son's friend, who he had been trying to meet up with for years, they were going to also be at the launch, all because his dad happens to be just a few down the chain of ladder there, working on the Starship project for SpaceX.
Wow.
So we got to go for dinner and have, a little bit of experience there, talking and enjoying learning about SpaceX a little bit more, and the Starship project, and just everything that to do with it. And it was so much to do in so little time. It's like a whirlwind. Don't think I processed it until we got back.
I think it's amazing. I mean, today's January 7th. And to think back a year ago, we had no clue that Inspiration 4 was even happening at this point.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, it was and here it's happened. They've spent 2 days, 23 hours and 3 minutes in space, orbited the Earth God knows how many times. And it just shows you where we're going very quickly, very rapidly. The projects are just accelerating. There's no, even with little delays, there's really no slowdown. Like, look at the Weber satellite out there now. And what did they say? 70% already, probably further now. That was like late last night, I think. The distance has been crossed, and I wait until they open up and start really looking. I mean, last night I was lucky. I was in a spot that as I walked outside, I realized we're getting really, really close to that point in sunset where if I was ever going to catch a glimpse of that comet, if Leonard was going to show his face in my world, I better start looking south. And it's really at that level of the horizon where even if you get a pretty clear, in which I had a perfectly clear night, there was not a cloud in the sky. It's really hard to see. But I pulled out the camera and set it up and used a couple of different apps, and was able to actually capture a couple of very small images, very distant, but you can see the comet, you can see the tail. And I was like, wow, like, that's a once in a lifetime opportunity. That's never going to happen again, and just all these opportunities that we're taking. As we're moving towards being a multi-planetary species, it's happening a lot quicker than I think we expected in some ways.
Yeah, I mean, once Starship becomes operational, I think that'll be transformational. We'll have before Starship and after Starship.
For sure. Yeah, I can't wait. Can't wait to see what that brings. I mean, partially because I'm an adrenaline junkie and I love flight. That's me. But I'm also like very much a homebody in some ways. As much as I've traveled and done stuff, I like having a home base. I like being where I know. And I worry about our planet. I worry about our planet because if we don't worry about taking care of it now, then it may not matter how interplanetary we are. It's going to be very restrictive in the beginning as to how many people and where they're going. And if we're not careful between now and then, we could really be ruining the ship that we have flying through space right now. So there's a lot to be yet discovered here that I think I would like to see us putting as much effort into. If we can put a rocket out into space, we should be able to map our oceans. I want to say that one of the statistics I saw was less than 35% of the seaboard in the US is actually properly mapped and explored. How? I'm like, we've got United States Navy. How? But it is true.
Or even
So
trading habitats in the middle of the ocean or underneath the ocean. I
for
mean,
sure.
if we have like a nuclear war or something, that could be a good surviving place.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when they, like, what was it today that the Chinese just did? Did you hear about that plasma? It was like
Uh-uh.
3 times the heat of the sun, and they were able to run it for a number of minutes straight,
Oh, is it
containing
like
it.
a fusion reactor or something?
Yeah.
And
My
that
thought
came
was,
out today?
I saw something about it today. I could
Oh,
be wrong. It could have
wow.
been yesterday, but yeah, it was like some. Now you're gonna make me look it up because I hate being wrong when I quote something and you're recording this. Um, but think about it. It's like if we could contain that, well, and then we could shrink it down and we could stick it on a starship, unlimited energy forever, or for a very good long time. Wow, that would be making some definitely long flights. But but just how can we use that to advance what we're doing? But also, how can we? Yeah, a day ago. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, I
Yeah,
hadn't even seen it. I was like, wow, how did I miss it?
China's artificial sun it says has set a new world record after superheating a loop of plasma to temperatures 5 times hotter than the sun for more than 17 minutes. The state media
17
reported.
minutes.
State media, you got
Wow.
to be a little bit hesitant, state media, but that's China. But it says that the East Experimental Advanced Superconducting Tomac nuclear fusion reactor maintained a temperature of 158 million degrees Fahrenheit or 70 million degrees Celsius for 1,056 seconds, according to their particular news agency. And I'm not going to butcher their name because it's Chinese. The achievement brings scientists to a small yet significant step closer to the creation of a source of near unlimited clean energy, which is what we need. We really do. I mean, whether we want to take it out there, whether we want to take it under the water, whether we want to just keep this planet going, it's kind of very cool to me that we can't replicate what Tesla was doing. Just scientifically, there's something missing that we obviously have not been able. He was producing free energy before his passing, and unfortunately, it's something that got taken with his papers, and we're just never been able to replicate. I mean, we can send it a couple of feet in an enclosed room, but he was sending it miles, which was pretty cool scientifically, especially in day and age. So
That
be
would have
nice to see
been
that.
really useful for space-based solar power.
It's amazing to dream as to where we're going to go, especially when we're looking at, how long the ISS is going to remain, what else is being built, who else is going to build up there, how many people have been up, how many people are going up, how many civilians have been there. It was so exciting to see, Inspiration 4 go, but since then, William Shatner, for crying out loud. Things like that, at the time that he was making that, it was just this fantasy, this dream, then he actually got to experience it, and it seemed very transformational for him. So
Can you imagine if you had won the prosperity seat and you went on Inspiration 4? I mean, what would you
they'd
have?
want to throw me out.
Why?
Because I'm just that big kid, like I know Haley was doing somersaults for like twirling and whatever, but I'm just that got to go and touch and learn and explore, to be like, can she sit still for 5 minutes? Can she shut up so we can sleep? Nope, not for the entire time we're up there. Nope. I would have to take it all in, because who's to say that will ever happen for any of them? Like, it's not like unlikely that it couldn't, because, well, I mean, Jared could probably go anytime he wanted, but the rest of us are limited to resources at this point, and financial ones. He wants to throw 100 million my way, that'd be brilliant. But I don't think I'd spend it on that. However, as it comes down in price, maybe that's something we'll all get to experience. I don't know if it'll happen in my lifetime, but um, I can't imagine what it'd been like. And I honestly, wasn't sure if I would have been because I was representing not just, even though it was me and my product, IVLO, there are people I work with that I was thinking maybe better health, better experience, more capable, more deserving. I hate to say that. That's certainly how I felt in a lot of ways. Because here I'm there were so many really, really intelligent people. I wouldn't want to be somehow like, how did she go? How did she get there? Like, why? Why her? But I'm just glad I got to be a part of it. It's still a very small group of people overall, just a really awesome experience. Even though I didn't get to be in the launch and experience those G's and what it's like to be on the other side of that thin blue line. I think we all went with her that day. I think we all went, not just the Prosperity Seat, but we all went with Inspiration 4. I mean, I think our spirit as a group and as a crew was carried there. I don't think you could find many, many more excited people in this world that moment and that day. They were launching. We were probably more excited about it than they were. They were probably like scared to death, and that's okay. We were allowed the excitement while they had to ride the ride. It was good. It was good. What would it have been like for you if you had gotten to be that person in that seat?
Oh goodness. Well, I hope I could have maintained the nerve to go through with it. I've been known to wait in line for 30 minutes, 45 minutes for a roller coaster and then kind of back out at the last moment. So I hope that wouldn't have been me.
I mean, I'm gonna have to like hold you on and make sure you get on like California like screaming or something just for once.
Seinfeld had that skit where he's like, they send the shuttle up and it's, nobody's paying attention and it's boring. And he's like, well, maybe they should send somebody that don't want to go. And, then they can have him like trying to hold onto the door jams as they're like pulling him through. That would be really exciting. We could see that.
I think, but there's a little bit of peer pressure when you're going with 3 others.
Yeah.
And you've done all the work, like they did a lot. So I'm thinking if someone was going to chicken out, they'd chicken out before the jet. Not the launch.
Yeah, the jet would have been a good test, I think.
I think that would have been a great test. I wonder how many of them passed out with G's.
I don't know. And then also the centrifuge. The centrifuge would have been a good
right?
thing too.
Yeah, but that's not like off the ground per se. Like the jet literally is in the control of somebody else's hands. And yeah, the centrifuge is, but it will come to a stop.
Eventually.
Not crashing.
You hope not. You hope not.
But that's all of the fun and the adventures and all of that kind of stuff. But I think if I felt like it was something and I had the opportunity, I don't think I would turn it down. Definitely, as much as I think other people, I think at the time that's how I felt about it. Like there's probably other people more deserving, definitely more maybe knowledgeable about space, and I didn't want to feel like the imposter syndrome type person. As much as it's been in and out of my life, it certainly, I'm not as knowledgeable as a lot of others that have been competing. But I don't think that really mattered to everybody else either. I think we've all been so very supportive of each other's like life goals, and whether it's products or things that we're working on doing now, like this for you. And I'm so excited to see how this ends up. Like, how many interviews did you do? We were talking about that last night. I was like, he's got to be over 700 now.
Well, I started at 1840, and I think this is like 1099 or 1098. So whatever the difference of those two numbers are.
Okay, so it's a countdown for you.
It is to the end of 2024.
You said 1840?
Yeah.
To 1098?
Pretty certain. Yeah.
That's like 18,
Oh,
well, 1098 is almost 11. 11 to 1840 is 740, 742.
yeah, 742, 741. This is 1089, but yeah, 741.
741. Look at you. That's incredible.
Yeah, and I got
And what have you taken
1,000.
away from it all?
Well, number one, don't be shy. People are willing to talk. Two, people are really smart, but sometimes they're asked the wrong questions, like, who you're going to vote for, which cable provider
Very
do you
true.
have, uh, you know, this type of
True.
thing. If you ask them questions like, hey, where do you see humanity going? They actually have intelligent answers. And
Right.
what do you see about the problems that we're facing here on Earth? I, I think as long as we don't let like marketers and political parties and things like that really narrow the conversation to a set of Boolean choices or limited choices that we could really function really well as a society. We just have to actually communicate and connect.
Communication. Yeah, it really does come down to concise communication, I think. But also not limiting people's ideas, and certainly not limiting direction and or experiments in the sense of, letting our youth are so smart. They're smarter than we were at their ages. I just think part of that is because of the exposure and everything that they can access through the internet. Like, we did not have that option writing those reports when we were kids, and we couldn't, as much as we were dreamers in a different way. Now they can see it, see things that are actually happening and go, oh, I want to take that, but then make it this, or this is how this could be applied to better this, and just letting them grow and certainly not limiting what they can do, because we've decided that there's a one way of growing up, and technical school versus universities, and everybody has to go this way versus that way, or this is what's going to make you, like, how many millionaires are there that are really young people right now because of YouTube? Or TikTok or something. It's just one of those things that those opportunities weren't there for us as kids, but there's a very large platform right now that reaches all around the world. And if we look at the fact that everybody, doesn't matter what borders we reside in between, globally we're humanity. We're one race, indistinguishable on the inside, indistinguishable by spirit from each other, other than we are a human race. And for our purpose, we got to stop dividing ourselves and start working towards global solutions. Like, I don't care if it's coming from China, Russia, Mexico, South America, in South Africa, Australia. If there's a solution to be had, let's have it. Let's work on it. Let's make it happen so that we have this for so much longer and we can experience that for so much longer as well. Like, make it possible for everybody if that's what we want, without restrictions and limitations and whatnot, and without damaging this parcel that we have right now, this incredible Earth. There's no other Earth out there. I mean, it's not to say there aren't other planets that are habitable that are habitable or we could make habitable for us. And there's not saying that there isn't other species out there. I don't know. That's something I can't answer. But we're the only one with this Earth. And it's a pretty cool place if you think about it. Like, just all of the species that we have and all of the stuff that's left unexplored. It's been a pretty awesome place. It's been around long enough. We shouldn't be destroying it too much.
Absolutely. I mean, there's no plan B. I mean, regardless of how bad we mess up the Earth, it will still be more habitable than any other place in the solar system.
As long as we don't completely decide nuclear war is a way out.
I think even then it would still be, it
might take us a long time. The question is how habitable and by how many humans?
Yeah, I mean, It's not about the Earth surviving. It's about the humans surviving on the Earth. It's like the Earth
Well,
is
and
going to
then of
survive.
course the sort of the animal kingdom too, because the more that we start erasing that, the more unbalanced we become, and it again becomes a challenge for us to sustain humanity. I mean, not to say that we're the perfect species out there, because I think we've demonstrated we're lacking in some places. We need to get a little more experience under our belt. I think it's, communicating with one another and being better to each other, and really just experiencing life together,
We're the
and being
species.
appreciative of it.
We're the species that just like a kid that discover matches and just wants to see what all you can catch on fire.
Oh yeah. And how many of them we can set on fire in a row?
Yeah.
And like, well, what if we make dominoes out of them? And next thing you know, there's fire going. Yeah, we are. I mean, we're still young. If we look at it from the grand scheme of all things, if you want to talk about age of other things in this solar system and beyond, I mean, as a species, we're a very young species. So hopefully we learn and grow. And I think we're in a really cool time. I think we've been very lucky because we are seeing the transition from being very much on what at one point was thought to be, this flat center of the universe thing, to we've stepped out of that, and we've put our feet down, and we've sent satellites far, and we've taken pictures with the Hubble, and we know what not very many decades ago they were just looking up at and dreaming about, not even a couple of centuries ago, and we know what's out there. In that sense, we know we're not alone. We know we're not the center of the universe, although sometimes we think we are. But we just know that there's way more out there to be explored and understood, and what that can bring us, and hopefully what we can bring it, is just the best of who we are as a species, who we are as humans, and I think we're in a really cool time because we get to watch that happen. Just the steps, we're getting there. We're actually getting there. How long do you think before Starship really makes its way?
I think 2 years.
Yeah. It's pretty cool what Elon's been able to accomplish.
Yeah, I think he needs to make that Kennedy launch site happen, get a Starship over there.
Oh yeah.
And then
the
people in Brownsville be like, I thought you were going to do that here.
But we were cool for a minute. It would make sense to have it sort of at either Hawthorne, out that direction, closer to where their headquarters are, or closer to where Kennedy is. I don't know. Yeah, but I don't think it's going to be long. Like you said, 2 years is not very long in the grand scheme of it all. But
I mean, just think about this time last year, there wasn't any super heavy booster, and there wasn't, all the tiles on the Starship, and it's just like,
right.
It's huge. I mean, I think 2023 might really happen for Dare Moon. It's not impossible, I don't think.
Not impossible, absolutely, like you said, and that's that was just on the backside of inspiration for that competition as well, and global, which was really cool, and I don't know that I'm up to speed with who's the last contenders. I mean, I remember at one point I knew that they were sort of the semifinalists. I don't know if they've moved forward from there, but like, again, whoever gets to go, what an amazing experience. What amazing experience. And I start thinking about low orbital hotels. People have been talking, it's going to be holiday. The next thing we're going to be doing is holidaying in space, and oh, kids, guess what? And then Disneyland in space or something like that, just what else is going to be going up there? I mean, I do think about, and I know they're working really hard at making sure that they just launched more Starlink with the same booster that took Inspiration 4 into space, by the way.
Pretty awesome.
I know that the reusable booster thing is just incredible. Like, yes. But I think about, you know, all of those satellites as they track through, and really, are they going to clutter our view? And I know they're working really, really hard at making that not happen. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think it's gonna, I mean, obviously you're going to see them tracking at some point, but maybe they'll be a distance enough apart, creating that mesh that they don't look. I know I've seen a couple of times where they're starting to spread out and they look like just these little like rows of dots just across the sky. And I know they're spreading out. And I know I look up at the sky and I really didn't notice many last night at all. And it was a clear night, very clear night. So I'm hoping that that mesh sort of stays sort of invisible. Let us dream.
I think we need to do more astronomy from space, you know.
Yeah. Well, we're going to be doing that soon.
Yeah. I mean, imagine all those telescopes you could launch with Starship, you know.
Oh my gosh. I imagine how far you can take them. And imagine unlimited energy being the source to travel.
Exactly. And imagine being able to observe like the same region of space from like multiple places inside of the solar system, you know. Like,
yeah.
And I went to a interstellar symposium in Tucson in September. Okay. And there was an astronomer there that was talking about using the sun and the fact that it bends, you know, space. Right. You can use it as a big lens. So apparently, if you're at 50 times the distance from the sun as the Earth is, then you're at the focal point of that. And essentially, if you block out the sun and just look at the light around it, it's like focus. So you can actually use the sun as a huge lens to bend light. I was like, whoa, that's.
So now we just need to take a telescope, put it out 50 times distant from us to the sun.
Yeah.
Right?
Uh-huh.
You said 50 times the distance from Earth?
From Earth. From
Earth is from the sun.
Exactly.
So we take,
which is way past
telescope
Pluto.
Out that way.
Yeah.
50 times that way. And then look back with that telescope.
Yeah.
Could you imagine what we could see?
They're talking about, I think the title of the paper was a multi-pixel image of an exoplanet.
I don't even think I can wrap my head around that perfect. Like, I'm like, I cannot envision that completely at all. It just sounds, whatever it's going to look like, phenomenal. I would like, remember when they got the Hubble working properly and we started seeing those images and how, like, you know, like jaw dropping. I mean, they're just stunning, and they still are. So I can't imagine what we're going to see, but if we could just, you know, like I said, send something that far out, turn it around, block out the sun, and use that as another lens. Oh my gosh, incredible. And the fact that we have people that are capable of figuring that out, it blows my mind. Like, that's incredibly intelligent work there. And that's why they do what they do and I do what I do. But, you know, like, I just, wow. That's, and maybe that's not as far off as we think it is.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, especially when we see these reactors doing what they're doing. And if we could pack it into something that could literally provide the source of energy for Starship, it could just go for a very long time. Mars would be just another hop at that point, you know. We could be out there exploring all those other Goldilocks planets, which would be really interesting to see what we find. So do you think we're alone in this giant universe?
I doubt it. It's hard to imagine.
I don't think we were the only lucky species, because we already know we aren't. I mean, we share this planet with other species. But no, it's really hard to imagine us being the only species that wants to explore space and other planets and whatnot.
Of course, there's a Chinese author who wrote a series of books called The Three Body Problem. Okay. And his theory is that the universe is really like a dark forest, And so all of the quote unquote noisy civilizations are like kids in the forest with like the campfire, just attracting, predators who ultimately kill them. And it's only the quiet civilizations that survive. And that's
So you
why
mean
we
not
don't
us?
see anything. Yeah, not us. We're like the kids in the
We're the kids starting the
forest,
fire.
starting the fire, going, oh,
S'mores, marshmallows, yes,
exactly.
run!
So that's a scary theory.
Yeah, it is. It truly is. And if that's the case, like obviously we have definitely different values and ethics and morals than the opposing, I guess you could call them species out there. I would like to think that that isn't the case. But to think that we would be top of the food chain, maybe not, you know. I don't know. I have a better feeling about it than being the noisy kids in the forest attracting all the predators. I mean, because that doesn't always attract the predators. In fact, they tell you, to be big and noisy and scary if you're gonna, stand down a bear or mountain lion for that matter. It takes stuff that they're just not prepared to see or hear. That's why bear can or bear spray has like an air horn attached to it, not just the bear spray. It's the loud, big, noisy, right? It scares off the predator, hopefully. So maybe being loud and noisy isn't a bad thing. Maybe as having they say, have a fire. Fire doesn't attract the predator. Fire keeps the predator away. They know they know fires burn, fires destroy, in their world. It does. If maintained properly, it doesn't. But that's not their abilities. That's ours. So, I look at it that way. Maybe we aren't the noisy kids around, or maybe we are the noisy kids around the campfire, and the campfire is keeping us safe.
Are we scaring away all the potentially friendly people?
Potentially, or maybe we're, just not ready to have those experiences, at least not on a full-on global scale where it's knowledge to everybody. I mean, there's questions if it's happened already, and if it has, why? And why for those people? And what are we like? What's the message for us as humans? What do we need to be doing differently? Maybe it's not meant for all of us to have those experiences right now, but obviously if they're coming to tell us something. Maybe we're at risk, and maybe we are those noisy kids that are at risk of burning down the entire forest and we don't realize it. So it's all new. And I guess that's why it's so exciting, right? It's the adventure. It's the, what are we going to find? What's out there? And to all of those that take that first step out and go the furthest, brave, very brave.
It's funny.
I like to know what I'm going to meet.
It's funny you mentioned about it might have already happened. As part of this interview series, I like to ask people if it was safe and affordable, would you take a trip to space? And of course you would, right? Because that was the whole point of the inspiration for a thing. But
right.
I was in Mexico City this past December, and
Nice.
there ran into another tourist. He was from New Zealand.
Okay.
And so I interviewed him. And he's like, yeah, even if the aliens abducted me, I would love to go.
Right?
That'd be, I hadn't heard that one before. So I thought that's kind of cool.
Well, there's a program or a biography. I don't want to call it a biography, but I guess you could say it's kind of like a biography. But it's about sort of communicating with extraterrestrials or celestial beings and whatnot. And I think I'm trying to think, it's called About Us, maybe. But there's been, some studies and some research done, and thousands and thousands and thousands of people have had these experiences that sort of play out the same. Like when you ask them to explain it, and then you go, okay, well, what is that about? Is that really really, really, truly happening? Are we really involved that maybe we're not aware of, or maybe our government has kept very quiet for whatever purposes or reasons. But there's even apparently like scientific experiments that were done with the United States military that talk about telepathy and doing some genetic altering with alien DNA. That, and I'm trying to, what is it, project, I'll have to look it up. Can't think of the name of it right now. But they've got like people who are in the military and literally have been gone through all these classified things who are now maybe not involved anymore or allowed to speak about. It's like, what the heck? Like, I think it was called, I want to say it was called Project Prophecy, but I'll have to look it up. I'm like, really? Are they really, have they really done this kind of stuff? And we just don't know it? Like, part of, for me, is I didn't move to the States until 2005. So I guess my exposure to some of the things that maybe I've done here has been limited by obviously the time that I've been here. And the government that I grew up under, we have very, I mean, we may be border friends. We may share one of the most we actually share the world's longest unprotected border. However, you know, our goals are a little bit different, I think, through our governments and our militaries and stuff like that. And so that just blew my mind to think that, could they really be doing those kind of experiments down here? Wow. And if they are, what have they figured out? Like, I want to know. Like, there's just so many implications to that, like medically, not just space, but what could we do to help humanity? What could we do to help kids that are going through some of the things, like experiencing what has to be taken care of at St. Jude's, like the cancer, and are there ways that we can help genetically maintain or fix some of those things that maybe right now we just don't have a hold on or a complete understanding of, you know? And if we could use it to like make it possible to communicate around the world instantly because we can think about it, what else can we do with that science? You know, that's exciting stuff. By going out there, maybe we'll find answers to stuff that we need down here. But I also think in a lot of ways we were provided the ability to survive here. So we also need to explore right here. And there's a lot left to be explored.
Well, and there's a lot of people available to do the exploring. I mean, with the population of 8 billion people, we could explore everything. The ocean.
Growing.
I mean, but I feel like that there's something holding back humanity. Like we're not actually using our potential. You know, we're like wasting our time and energy so much. It's like, it doesn't matter if you have, you know, 1,000 people moving bricks. If half of them are pushing on one side and the other half is pushing on the other side, you're not going to move that brick. It's net zero.
Or if they're going in two different directions.
Yeah.
Like, we can take them that way and we can take half that way, but we're never going to get the project built.
Exactly.
You know, whatever that be.
Hey, you get your brick, take it where you want it. You get your brick and take it where you want it. I mean,
but nothing ever comes of that brick.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're not being put together, you know? It's like, and I firmly believe you're right. I think humanity, we're too busy dividing ourselves over stupid things. And I wrote about this not long ago, and I hesitate to put it out on the net because I know some people will be very upset by it. But I struggle with what I'm watching happen here in the United States right now, just because I think we have the ability to do a lot here. We not only have the ability, but we have the resources. You know, we're living in the most sought after first world nation, quite literally. I live in the city with the most billionaires, for crying out loud. Like, that's awesome. Wish I was one of them, but but what are we doing? What are we doing? And I look back to what happened during the civil rights movement, and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, And this is not exactly his quote, but certainly to the effect of, he looks forward to the day when a man is judged not by the color of his skin, but by the content of his character. And what are we doing again? Dividing ourselves. Like, we're dividing ourselves by skin colors and cultural differences in a melting pot. And I'm not saying that you get rid of your cultural differences. It's what makes us a beautiful place. And I'm not saying we can't look to the past and have those as historical lessons. But I'm not going to hold my child accountable for something that somebody else did that I wasn't even here for.
Right.
I'm not going to let their grandchildren be held accountable for that either. We moved to this country as well as immigrants. People might not know that by looking at us, but we were immigrants back in 2005, coming from a different first world nation. We were very blessed to be able to do that. But that doesn't make it any different for me as an immigrant. I've gone through the process. It's been a hard process. They didn't look at me and go, oh, well, your husband fought in the war and he's been to Iraq and he did this and he's done tour duties and da, 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 da. No, they didn't care. They didn't care. They could have sent my kids home and left me here. They could have sent me home and left my kids here. And I was like, this is the most insane and most scary process of my life. And it was very scary. But then I'm looking around and I'm like, what are we doing? What are we doing? If I finish my citizenship, I will be very happy to turn around and say I'm American. I'm not going to sit there and go, I'm Canadian American, because that just sounds ridiculous. Sorry, it does. My daughter's not going to go, hi, I'm British Canadian American, because that will be her triple citizenship. Like, she's just not. It doesn't make sense. If we chose to live in America and we want to be American, then let's be American. But I think bigger than that, let's just be human. Let's just be human. I can see the most beautiful things in humanity. And it was funny, a friend of mine who I grew up with, 40 years, we just celebrated 40 years. Like, we've known each other our entire lives.
Wow. So you all met when you all were 4?
He was just short of 5. Yeah. He was like 4 and a bit when he went into kindergarten. He had just moved to Canada, couldn't speak a lick of English. And he is exactly polar opposite color skin than I. Like, you don't get more light and dark. And I was so blessed because we moved away a couple of years later, and a few months down after that move away, we moved into this new community, and there was a school just down the way. I didn't have to go as far to go to school. It was great. And they were building houses, and we were like, it was that brand new. There weren't houses down the street. They were still building houses down the street. It was empty. And there was a house just down the way going up, and I saw this truck pull in, and then this kid popped out. And I'm like, I know that kid. I'm only 6 or 7 at the point, but I'm like, there's no way that kid is not. And his sister still had her hair done the same way. And I mean, like, I knew these kids that popped out, and I was like, I run down the street, and like, oh my gosh, it's Leslie. And we were just talking about that. And he and I both admitted to it, the fact that, like, he was my grad date, my high school grad date. And we went to 2 different high schools, and big high schools at that, like thousands of kids in them. And it wasn't until somebody pointed out to me that this kid was Black, and that was something different than I was, that I ever came across my world. It didn't matter. Like, it wasn't something to me. It never. And he said the same thing. He said he remembers when being in high school and someone pointed out that this girl that he'd known all his life was not Black. And she's like, I have to laugh because I spent as much time in his parents' home as I probably did in mine, in the mornings. And he's like, you can even do my mom's St. Lucian accent. It's great. Because I can, because I grew up with her just being another guiding figure in my life, you know, another mother figure. And I'm so appreciative of that, you know, like, he's like, you're the whitest Black person I've ever met. And I was like, well, thanks for that. But, you know, but I mean, I remember doing my hair in cornrows. That wasn't a problem. If I did it now, I'd be accused of something, you know, and it's just not right. It's just not right. I think there's appreciation for culture, and we all have it. And we all have, every one of us. And I think we each experience, even though we're culturally, in some ways, coming, if we come from different cultures, different backgrounds, whatever, the base of the culture is similar, we're still our own little culture because we have our own families, and our own families have their own little culture, you know? And I think if we just are able to put our differences and stop looking for the differences, we'd find way more similarities every day. You know, our goals are the same: a good life, a safe place, food, shelter, you know, someone who cares, somewhere that we're, you know, we can go home and be safe and just feel like we have a purpose in this world. And if we can just hold on to that, I don't think we need to worry about all the little differences.
Yeah, I think there's the biggest thing is a sense of scarcity. Like there's not enough to go around. And therefore, we need to find some way to divide up people and to create tribes so that we can make sure we get our own.
But that's not the case.
Yeah.
If we can put rockets into space, and we can grow barley on the ISS, which was the first beer that was made from space, by the way. Just, you know, our inspiration for beer is the second, the IPA. But we are smart enough. We are more than capable to solve these problems. We're lazy.
Yeah.
We're lazy as a species in some ways. There's a very small group of people making the biggest strides. And there is a lot of inequality. Opportunity isn't the same as much as I wish it was.
But the opportunity is not the same. I agree. A lot of people have different opportunities, but I would say very few people fully utilize all the opportunities they have.
Right. And I agree completely. It's just being mindful of those, being aware, you know, and I think we see a lot of, I find like, yeah, as much as we talk about the internet wasn't around when we were kids, I think there's something to be said about that and how beneficial, yes, technology has been. We still need to unplug because it's limiting our creativity for some people. I think kids get sucked in and they get to know this one little bit and that's what they want. And God forbid they can't have it. And, you know, it's limiting their ability to really explore and find out what they're fully passionate about, or they fall into what they're fully passionate about and then they just thrive. But I think we see more of the limitations than the thrive. You know, we see some of those, you know, I think kids don't think their way through things sometimes as well as they could, or they're not aware as much as they should be. I mean, unplugging from this, how many times you go walking down the street or going through the parking lot or whatever, and everybody is like this, or you go to a restaurant, which we haven't been able to do for a while, right? But I mean, you can now, but you know what I mean? And everybody at the table is like, there's a whole world out there around us that we're ignoring, you know, and the longer we ignore it, the longer we're going to have these problems build up. You know, solutions are out there. Creativity is there. The ability to make those things happen. You know, we can clean this place up. We can survive. We can make it better. We can help the world. We can, if we want to. We can heal the damage we've done if we want to. It's just a matter of what's driving that stuff. And politics, you brought it up earlier. There's a lot of political lines that drive it, and there's money, a lot of money that drives it. And those things, once, as long as politics and money are the driving forces, and humanity's, takes a back seat to that and what's best for humanity, that's going to be a big problem. We need to stop making it about global ruling and start making it about helping the globe, helping the people, helping everybody, because we're all here. And it's sustainable. It's absolutely sustainable. There's no doubt in my mind. If we can grow crops up in Alaska all year round because we use the right, and it doesn't have to be super technology, it's just using the right system, and they can, and they do, then we shouldn't have a problem. We shouldn't. But I think governmental goals are very, very different than what's best for humanity.
Or corporate goals, even.
Corporate,
getting people locked into a product and
big pharma.
Yeah. I mean, there they can, kind of hold your life hostage,
Oh, they do.
Yeah.
They absolutely do. I have no doubt about this. If you can Catbaugh, it's an island over, I want to say it's over like by the Philippines. 0 obesity, 0 diabetes. Their bodies have and hold on to the brown fat that they are born with. In fact, they probably have a higher percentage, slightly higher percentage. You scan a North American, and we lack most of the brown fat that we were born with. And that's what helps keep obesity under control, which means, the less brown fat we have, the less likely we are to keep our bodies healthy and free of the other fat. Well, why is that? What is it about them there? What is it about their environment? What is it about their, right? There are things there that we just can't get here. I mean, there's solutions to cancer. There are solutions to cancer that we just don't get exposed to, because it's much better to keep people reliant on a treatment and make money on a treatment, unfortunately, than it is to give them the cure. And different societies, different governments, different cultures have different feelings about that. And we live in a society that is very happy with its, supersized products and fast food and addictions with that. I think we see addiction to fast food as bad as addictions to cigarettes in my world. I mean, I've seen it all when it comes to health and the lack and what we can and can't do. And it's so disheartening to me, because I know what we have. But if you don't have the right healthcare, you don't have the right coverage, you don't have the right insurance, you're not paying the right government, whatever, you don't get it. You don't get it. And if you can't afford it, God forbid you're written a prescription and you can't afford it. How many people go without prescriptions every month because they can't afford it? And I mean, there's a lot of things that we can change, and we should be able to change, and it shouldn't be that hard. But again, it comes down to, what is the priority? That is the priority of the people running the world. So very few people running the world. Very few people running the governments when it comes to the 8 billion people that are here.
Yeah, but I mean, those people, they live in a completely different world than the rest of us. That's the problem. I mean, it's like, I mean, even me, I have modest means here. I'm not a billionaire. But, I could definitely feel a sense of different economic power whenever I go to like Mexico City. I mean,
yeah.
And so, I mean, I can't relate to them. I mean, I have no idea about their hopes, dreams, and challenges and what they consider to be the way to get around life. And, that sort of difference gives me at least a little insight into what it must be like for somebody who is a billionaire. You know, I mean, they literally cannot relate to other people. I mean, it's just like, I mean, it's like a bird trying to relate to a fish. It's like, even if they try, you know.
And I want to say that that's true, but if they do step back for a minute and just put themselves, empathy is not something that costs anybody anything.
Mm-hmm.
And whether or not they can completely relate, somebody can understand what it's like to be without. Even if they've never really gone without or experienced it, all they have to do is ask themselves what it would be like if they didn't have access to what they have now, and the panic that that would ensue if they were just blocked from their ability to access any of their assets and resources, and then said, here, survive for a week. They wouldn't make it 2 days. The panic would be overwhelming, because how do they live without access to all of that, right? They just know it's there, and I feel like unless they've come from a place of lack and have made themselves to where they are, like Oprah, she's, her story is pretty like shocking, to go from where she was to where she is. She understands what it was like to be that way. That doesn't mean that she is always in touch with the world these days with everything that she chooses to do, but there's also some drive to give and things like that as well. But yeah, I remember, like, for myself, the one time we've been to Mexico, and it was that profound to me. It's just never been somewhere my friends go to Mexico all the time. Gotta go do these things, check these places out, da, 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 da. And I'll tell you the memory I have. So profound. And we walked across the border, got a taxi, drove into Tijuana. I was a kid. I had a white sweatshirt wrapped around my waist. We were staying in San Diego at the time for a holiday, Christmas holiday type thing. And we were just walking down one of those streets in Tijuana, where everybody's trying to barter with you and the kids are selling the little chicle packs. And it was different for me. And then we had gone through like this little shopping area, and we came out and there was a lady, and I'll never forget her. Sitting on a mat in the corner with a cup. And I think there was a child that kept coming up and back to her. But she was so jaundiced. Her eyes were jaundiced. Her skin was so jaundiced. And at the time, I didn't know what that was. I mean, I could ask my mom, but it was frightening. And I remember my dad taking out, for us, would have seemed like nothing. But it was like a $20 bill, I think. And he had me go put it in the cup. And he wanted her to know, like, you hold on to that. Like, don't let somebody take that. Tuck it away. Didn't know if she understood. But I was like, it's a $20 bill, as a kid. And I was lucky because we got to do travels. We got to go places, got to see things. I remember coming back over the border, and I ended my jacket, my sweater that was white was now gray. Like, the knot was clean, the rest of it was dingy. And I was like, just very profound moment in my world, because I knew that lady wasn't going to make it long. I didn't know why I knew that as a kid, but we didn't really discuss it either. It was just one of those, like, it went from a good day to everyone was really sullen. Like, we were just, and I knew I was lucky. I knew I could walk away from that. And I guess living where I live and having worked in the emergency departments here, I've seen it again and again and again and again and again. The disparity between the billionaires. I've had the experience, quite literally, where I've put a multimillionaire in a stretcher right next to a guy that is coming out of one of our underground sewer systems. I'm locking away a $20,000 diamond ring in our security system. The guy next to her doesn't have 2 dimes to rub together. And then they're human. As far as I can see, it doesn't matter how much money and what you're wearing, and it's $50,000 jacket or a $5 hand-me-down. You know, it's the person underneath all of that that's important to me. I've been very lucky to have that as a driving force in my life. So, you know, and I do understand that there are those differences, and some people just don't even have a clue as to handle them. But I think if they stop for a minute and just put themselves in that situation where they don't have any of that, what would they do? Don't have the option to call mom, bank, or anybody who's holding any of their assets or funds, and they just have to survive. They'd find themselves very human very quickly. So, yeah, it's a blessing. It's also a curse in a way. I just don't see people differently. I'm not impressed by, I guess you could say I'm not impressed by the dollars. You know, it doesn't, it's who's here. What drives them here? What drives them here? That I think we need to really focus on as a species. You know, because we've got a lot of people that could do a lot of good that just don't have the means. You know, or maybe the opportunity, or just overlooked very quickly because of where they're from. So I think we've got a lot better to do here, but we're going to do amazing things whether we're here or out there. I'm just excited to see how it's all going to unfold if I stay here long enough. I don't know. I don't want to grow too old, but
Well, what you want to do is grow young. Like there's no reason why you couldn't have the body and mind of a 20-year-old and have the, you know, the birthday of a 1,000-year-old.
Check me into whatever program that is. Like when that comes into existence, check me in. I'm like, no, 40 is not doing it here. You know, but you know, we're going those ways. We're going those ways. I mean, we do have those cryo systems. I'm trying to think how many there are right now. But there are people that are in those. And if it's not all of them, it's definitely their brain. But there's some people that are. Would you ever do that?
Why not? I mean, it's just dead body anyway. You know,
wait,
there's
you're
a chance.
Coming back to that dead body.
Yeah. Well, I mean, might be coming back to a computer simulation. You know, like, good. We'll scan
Who's to
the
say
brain.
We aren't a computer simulation right now?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Are we in the Matrix?
I wish I knew the cheat codes.
Right. That's so funny.
Yeah.
Oh, can you think
of, like,
oh my gosh.
Like tap this finger and like this and poof.
And you know, that's the thing. You know, we talk about cheat codes and stuff like that. I was amazed to hear that there are people like doing the injectable RFIDs that can like open their cars, and they transfer information to their cell phones or somebody else's cell phone, or unlocks their house. Like, wow. I mean, technology is really, even though I'm exposed to it, I have been exposed to technology with the hospitals and, you know, level 1 trauma centers and all of that kind of stuff. That is something I will admit I haven't come across that yet, or someone's told me they have it yet. But I've seen some, you know, interviews and stuff like that with people that are doing that. And I'm like,
yeah, wow. I interviewed a person that had that.
What?
Yeah,
Shut
not in person,
up.
but on you know, through Zoom. Yeah.
Right. And
I mean, he's like, you know, whenever I need to get into the office, I just scan my hand and, you know, yeah.
Did it hurt?
He said it wasn't too bad. Yeah.
Now I want to know where you got it done. There's some people that really think that the combination of technology and humanity, like cyborgish.
Well, I mean, look at Neuralink from
right.
Elon.
Oh, that is so exciting. Like again, Elon. This man is unreal. Like some of these things are like, wow. And I'm totally fascinated by Neuralink, just obviously with my career and whatnot, but I'm fascinated because there's so many things that it could do. I'm like excited. I'm like, I want to volunteer for Neuralink. I'll be honest. I would totally, in a heartbeat.
Well, you know, one thing that occurs to me is like our missions to the moon and maybe to Mars initially is how little the astronaut actually gets to experience that environment. I mean, because basically it's all visual and just some sense of weight, you know, like they can't really feel things or interact with that environment. But I mean, imagine having a spacesuit with like really fine-grained sensors on the outside and Neuralink,
right,
where you really could feel like you're actually feeling the
it's all
environment.
it's all transferred into you as a it's like
And
it becomes a part of you essentially,
exactly.
which is amazing. You know, that would be phenomenal because then it's experiencing while still keeping you safe, you know. And I think about it when we're talking about this, and it's funny because it makes me think of Star Trek, and it makes me think of the Borg. And I actually know the guy that plays the first Borg that we ever see in Star Trek. Yeah, Patrick Burnett and I have been friends for a number of years, but he's the first ever Borg we see. And here we are talking about stuff just similarly to that, you know, where technology interfaced with humanity and what it could do for us, you know. And I just, you know, like you're talking about all of this, and Elon's on the cutting edge of a lot of it. Elon's the SpaceX, Elon's with Tesla for like the EVs, and then Elon now here with Neuralink. And not to mention Starlink, you know.
And the Boring Company.
The Boring Company right here in Vegas. Have you been on that?
I have not.
The Loop is amazing. It's fun. Although, come to find out, Teslas are a little claustrophobic.
Are they?
That's why they have drivers. Yeah, they do. My son and I, who also traveled out to the launch with me. I have a daughter as well, but she's been quite busy. We went to the SEMA show shortly after we got back from the launch. And it was just, wow. And it was very cool to be able to go and check out the Loop because it was free to go on and do all of that. And it covers so much space, but they're also just approved for them to do the transit kind of up the strip. So that'll be something that we're watching get built out here as time goes on. But it was really kind of a really cool experience in the sense that like we got the gull-wing doors and we're in the back, and people are going to hate me for saying this. They really are. But the backseat of the Tesla was not any more comfortable than the backseat of my Altima. It's all cool for the driver. The rest of it's like being in a regular car. Like if you're not interfacing with that part of it, if it's not doing that for you, kind of feeling is how I came across. Like I got in a car. Let's see if you can see that reflection.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, the X-Wing.
Yep.
Yeah. Model X.
And then that was one. This is actually the other one. And then they had, those ones are the ones they use for disabled, so they get specific calls. And most people end up in just one of their regular Teslas. But the driver of the first one that we got in on the Loop was explaining, this is actually inside the car. We had fun. Let's see if we can get this to go. No, we're good. Let's see if you, this is exciting. Tell me if you can see that.
Yeah, I can see it.
one person drive into the loop. How did that actually occur?
We had a car come into the loop.
So we used to have clickers to get into the gates.
Oh.
It's got a little more advanced, but I think
Right.
One of the drivers saw a Tesla sitting there. They had their clicker. They're like, oh, it's probably just forgot the clicker. Clicked them in.
Oh no.
Pretty quick on us to get rid of the clickers.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
More secure.
It's
alright.
Yeah, and they auto drive as well, or is it you guys do all the driving at this point?
Yeah, it's manual for now. Where the Teslas get a little claustrophobic. So
I don't blame them.
We're working on it.
Well, you know, if Elon
It was fun. It was fun. I was like, and like I said, if Elon can put, Starship into space, I'm pretty sure he can make those a little less claustrophobic. But it was like just interesting to find out. But they're really, it's cool that they can do that. Now, I will say my Jeep drives as much as it's got auto steering, auto driver assist as well. So,
oh wow,
it's not as cool as a Tesla for some people. I like it, but yeah. But that was fun. It was fun just to be able to sit in one and go for the loop, and so fast. It's just like, and they just speed around there. So it was a piece of pee. And they just come in and drop it. And people were like, oh, I don't know how it's going to work and why it would work and blah, blah, blah. And here's the thing. This is why it works for me. Because you can load into a Tesla. You don't have to wait for an entire vehicle or an entire busload of people.
Sure.
To fill up, and it just goes. And then as somebody, it's an on-demand public transit. So it's like on-demand taxis, except for following a very specific, track or loop, and it can pull off without interrupting everybody else. So not everybody has to make every stop on the way. It's a good idea. I think I liked it. I didn't mind not having to wait very long and getting into a vehicle and not having to share that vehicle with everybody.
Especially with COVID.
Yes. And they were really good about it. They were going to try to stick 4 of us in one. I was like, I don't know the people. Sorry. We're supposed to all be wearing masks. We're standing outside. Don't know that I wanted to just hop into the car with somebody else. And they were really totally awesome. They were like, yeah, no worries. Next one. Great. And now it was good. It was good. So would you go with Neuralink? Would you become cyborg?
I don't see why not. I don't see why not. I would need to see it proven out. I wouldn't be like the first person, but I wouldn't be the last either. Guinea pig? I would be maybe middle of front, maybe.
Sort of the back end of the front of the pack.
Yeah, exactly.
Start at the middle.
Exactly. There we are.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting because when they were showing what they can do, it was like, could you imagine if we could do this? Or can you imagine if we could do that? And he was, oh yeah, we've been doing that for 6 months.
Yeah.
Like, it just makes me wonder where they are in that process right now, because that was like, and I know he's so busy with like Starship and all of that, but yeah, no, there's so many great things going on. We live in such a great time.
And what we have shortage of is ideas that have organizations and teams behind them that are credible. There are trillions of dollars looking for an investment for what's next. The problem is that trillions of dollars lack vision, and the teams that are going after that money lack credibility.
It's the risk. It's the financial dollar risk versus the let's just make this dream happen. I think when we look at what's happened with Starship and Tesla and SpaceX and all of these things, is Elon either acquired a dream or had his own and said, we can do this. We can do this. And it didn't have, if people just are willing to take that risk, if it's a good idea, and I'm not saying not every idea is a good idea. I'm saying if it's a good idea and it's a good idea, even though it's not coming from a proven, team or credibility. I mean, not every good idea is going to be born into a credible team of people. It's going to be born into somebody with some creativity that didn't limit themselves, you know, and you've got to have those people behind them that, yes, have the money to make that happen, but are willing to risk it for a dream, you know.
Well, and who has a track record of actually taking dreams to completion. I mean, I think more than Elon's billions of dollars worth of shares is Elon himself, you know, saying,
He
you know,
invested.
we can make this happen. I think if you took away all of Elon's money and, you know, he would be able to put together a team and still make stuff happen.
And that's the thing is, like, I just heard him say, I think it was actually earlier today, I was looking at some of the stuff on our Twitter feeds and stuff, and it was him talking about sleeping in the factory, working in every department.
Right.
And it was painful for 2 years.
The sheer force of will, right? It's like
sheer force of will to make it happen. And he was like, so involved.
I have this vision, this is going to happen, and I am going to make it happen. And that's what we really need, is for people to have that level of commitment. I mean,
well, and I think there's that, but we also we can't be squashing people's dreams like as quickly as we do. I think society is very quick to, oh, that's not going to work.
Well, I mean,
we have a lot of
got plenty of people saying that about Elon too, but he doesn't care. He's like, I'm going to do it anyway. I mean, you really need to have that type of thing that says, I don't care what people say. I'm going to make this happen.
And I want to ask if you think that's because of his, like, he's obviously very brilliant. He's an Asperger's, but that kind of ties to brilliance in a lot of ways. Do you think that sort of that unending drive, that people throw something in his way or not going to believe in him, and he just doesn't care in that sense, he doesn't let it affect him, is that something that makes him a little bit more likely to succeed?
100%.
That disconnection from emotion in some ways.
Well, I mean, I think just total commitment to seeing the vision happen. You know, it's like arm wrestling reality, I guess I would call it. Like,
true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see, like, when I've noticed that about some of the Aspies that have made some incredible things happen in life. It just, they have an ability somewhat to disconnect from other people's opinions.
Mm-hmm.
And that emotional drive, that, like, if someone told me and they just didn't believe in me, I'd probably be crushed. You know, like I feel like, you know, it's a struggle in some ways sometimes.
But you know, it's very limiting to need to have other people's approval, because people
absolutely agreed.
People only approve things that they're familiar
that they know.
with. That they know. And obviously, if you're doing something completely new and different, nobody's going to approve that. You know, I mean,
it's a struggle. Yeah, absolutely. And so it's learning to build that, either that, like you said, that knowledge, the realization that that's what's happening,
mm-hmm.
or just understanding that, well, that's maybe what they think, but that's not going to stop me from making that happen, you know, or making my goals happen. And it's teaching that sort of mindset. I think we've gotten away from that as well. I think that you look at what people thought they could do and what they made happen, and they made it. You know, and now it's like we have to, there's this need for approval. I mean, if we didn't have such a need for approval, we wouldn't have things like TikTok and YouTube and all of these things that are literally driven by, you know, opinions and people's approval. Really, it's like, oh, I like that, you know, and oh, this person's this, and oh, you know, it's a big way of validating who you are. Absolutely. You know, and if you've gotten your check mark in Twitter, you know, oh, that's the validation that you exist and you're smart and you want, the society wants to hear from you, you know. And I think that can help squash some of those people that aren't maybe so out there and ready to put themselves on that level of stage that are just equally as creative and wanting to make dreams come true, just not, you know, not sort of maybe as outgoing or willing to have the negative feedback and deal with it. And we've seen a lot of ugliness come from that too.
Well, and I think there's a very important thing is, I think it was Cy Wakeman is the person, but she said, work with the willing. You know, there's so many people out there. You don't need the doubters. All you need is the smallest number of believers to make it happen. So somebody doubts you or is not interested, move on to somebody else. You know, there's other people
and
out
you're
there.
going to get way more yeses than, or sorry, way more no's than you're going to get yeses. We know this.
Yeah.
But it's when those yeses come that things happen, right?
You just need enough yeses. Like, you know, you want to make a pizza shop, you don't need everybody to convince that that pizza shop's going to succeed. You just need enough to buy the place, buy the pizza ovens, and to start selling pizzas.
And the passion to make the pizzas and start happening. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's the passion for sure.
And it doesn't matter how many people said no. You just need customers to come buy the pizza.
Someone try it and they like it. And next thing you know, you're the next favorite place, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's, and it's true. It's really true. It's, you only need enough yeses to make it to that tipping point.
Right.
You know, like, and it's like 1% of the no's.
Don't even really bother convincing the no's. Just ignore them.
You don't even have to, no, because there's so many people in this world, there's going to be enough yeses. You just have to keep going until you get them.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. Whatever it is. Like, that's God's honest truth.
I mean, if you want the street clean, you just need enough people to pick up all the litter on the street. Doesn't matter if everybody wants to do it or nobody wants to do it. It's just,
and sometimes you're doing it on your own.
Absolutely.
But if it's that important to you, you will.
And commitment attracts other people. You know, people believe.
Yeah, your own belief in something. Like if it's what you're passionate about and what you're driven to do, the fact that, you know, you want it.
I mean, if I told somebody in 1900, you know, that I could wake up on a Sunday morning, decide to fly down to Mexico City, and it only cost $180, they would tell me I was crazy, even though $180 back then probably was a lot of money.
Right. But, you know, relative to the time. Yeah.
But if I told somebody that today, they'd be like, $180, that's expensive.
But it's not. I mean, you know, I guess it depends on where you're flying from.
Sure, Houston.
Oh, yeah.
Like 2.5 hours. But I mean,
that's like a hop, a skip, and the jump.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, at some point right now, that a million person sitting on Mars is so beyond people's imagination. But
well, the Wright brothers thought we could fly, and no one thought we could.
Oh yeah, they're like, oh, it must have worked only on Kitty Hawk. You know, sure, you were able to make it fly there. Something about it being, you know, next to like this air current or whatever. But you know,
look at it.
But you know, after we have people living on Mars and people going to Mars, I mean, the very same non-imaginative people will be saying, of course you can live on Mars. You know, why couldn't you? We never doubted it. You know, it's just like once you make it happen, people just assume
they'll be like, oh, well, yeah, we knew that.
That's a big deal. I don't, you know, of course.
Right. But I think what we're really hitting on the fact is that we still need dreamers, and everybody can be a dreamer.
We need dreamers who believe in their dreams and will force reality to materialize that dream.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, like for me, like IVLO is still very new. It's not new in the sense of, but it's young in the sense of a product, and it's young in the sense of something that's available, and it's still, and I can tell you, medicine and healthcare, we move slow. Like we could have the science in front of us for a very long time, and we're just not quick to act.
Mm-hmm. And
I know that I told my business partners that, and I firmly, they believe that they thought we'd be further ahead than we are. I'm like, I'm not surprised. But it comes down to, you know, like believing in something and understanding the consequences of not making it mainstream. not making it important to everybody out there. The longer we leave things the way they are. And I'm like somewhat disappointed that it wasn't further ahead when COVID hit. And I had hoped that we would have been able to have moved forward with COVID, because COVID would have been a perfect proving ground. But medicine was so frantically trying just to keep up with what was going on. Now we're going to try to integrate a new device that should have made their jobs a little easier, but try convincing nurses of that, right? Like, we're suspect as a group. We eye things very like, you know, until somebody proves it, you know, and gets the science out there and kind of does it. But you know, you don't give up. You don't give up. There's a world full of people out there that are going to see the value in whatever that dream is that you have. And if you're willing to continue to share it, I think people get stuck in the idea that they hear no enough that their dream isn't valid or wouldn't work or isn't good enough, or maybe they aren't deserving. And none of that's true. None of that's true.
Yeah.
Just got to get it to the right people, you know, and that takes time. That takes effort, as Elon has shown us. But like you said, don't give up. Like you have to believe in that dream. And so long as you believe, and so long as you believe in, keep moving forward and keep reaching out, you'll get those people that come aboard. You'll get those yeses. You'll get those people that go, wow, like, yeah, let's make that happen. And I know a guy that knows a guy.
Yeah, make the connection.
Start.
Exactly.
They do. They start. You just need to, like, I mean, I would never have thought. Ruben works in the industry from our group. And he was like, when he saw what my project was, he didn't reach straight out to me, actually. He reached out to Zachary and said, you know, hey, I might be able to help you out with this project, you know. And we have had some talks, you know, and goodness knows where we're going right now. Like I have other people that I'm, you know, in business with right now, but as things go on, who's to say, you know. And it would be so amazing to me to have a connection like Ruben, like, oh my gosh, what he does, wow, you know. And I'm just, you know, been so honored by meeting all of these people with all of these dreams. And I think that's what's been cool about this group. And not unlike other groups out there, but we are a bunch of dreamers that are making our dreams happen. We've all taken action. I think that's one thing that we can point to. We've all taken action. We've all put our time and our effort and our energy into it, our passion, our love, our heart, our spirit, and we've shared with each other. And by doing that, you know, look at what we're creating, you know. But that's just a petri dish of humanity, right? It's what we'll be doing in Mars when we get there. That's what, you know, Elon's pushing to get done, and working alongside NASA, which is really actually kind of cool that NASA's finally, and the government's finally getting aboard, realizing that, you know, private industry isn't always a bad thing, and that, you know, the government and private industry can work in conjunction with each other in concert to make something happen faster and better. So it's exciting. I'm so like stoked to see what's going to happen in the next few years. And I'm like excited for the kids behind us. You know, like, I don't know about you, but I got 20-year-olds in my house.
Yeah, I got a 19 and a 23-year-old. Yeah.
So we have one the same age. I've got a 24 and 23-year-old. And, you know, I'm like, someday maybe they'll have kids too. And what's going to come for them, you know? And just think, at some point, my kid's going to be able to say, well, you know, my mom was a part of that competition for the first all billing crew, you know, like those stories, right? Those stories to be had and shared.
And they'll be like, which one of the 100 are you talking about?
Right, exactly. She was like, don't worry about that. That's not important. You know, she wasn't the important one. You know, this guy was really brilliant. You want to know that one. But the end of this, the thing is it's inspiring. It's inspiring. And if anything comes from that, if there's something that I can say, if I'm able to pass along the passion to somebody, whether it's my family or not, whether it's just somebody who sits down and listens to one of these interviews one day, or one of the ones I did with Zach, or one of the ones I did with one of the news companies up in Canada. If there's just a hint of inspiration there that some little child grabs onto and says, I want to do something to solve this problem in the world, and I want to make bigger things happen, and I can do it, then I've done something right. You know, I feel like that's the goal. You know, like I know that with my career, I help people. But at the end of the day, if I can inspire somebody to really just, you know, go for their dreams and make the world a better place, and you know, to hear that would be awesome. You know, hey, like I saw what you were doing and I think that was so cool. I want to do something like that when I get older. Well, start doing it now. You know,
Absolutely.
Kids can do that.
And you heard a lot of people say, oh, it takes so long. Well, you and I both know the time to keep going, regardless if we're working on it or not. The only thing is if you're actually making progress or not.
Yeah. And if what you feel about it, is it worth the effort and the energy? Are the investments, the time? I mean, I went through a medical emergency in the middle of this journey for me. From the onset of developing the product to now, kind of right in the middle, 2.5 years ago. I went through a major medical emergency that set my world on a spin, an absolute, like, it stopped everything. And, you know, it's still a challenge. But through that challenge, I've learned if I give up on me, then who else is going to help me move forward? If I give up on my capabilities and what I was doing and what I hope to do again, then who else is going to have faith in me to be able to accomplish those things? Now, if you told me a year ago, like we said, we didn't know this was going on a year ago, but if you told me a year ago that I would have put my product out there for a competition to go into space and meet all of these incredible people who all have dreams, who all have their thing going on, who've all faced challenges and still want to see these things happen and still believe that, you know, there's all this stuff that we're on that verge of excitement and whatnot. And it's still, you know, they're just passionate, just legitimately passionate, and they hold on to their passion with all their heart. I would have said, are you crazy? Like, do you not realize what happened to me 18 months ago? I'm not capable of that. That's not going to happen. I had to believe. I had to believe I was deserving. Whether or not I thought I was going to get in that seat didn't matter. It was something that put that spark and that hope and that, like, realization that I am still me. I'm still capable. I might not go about it the same way as I used to, or I might not be doing exactly the same thing as I used to do before. And it might take me a minute to get back. But this was a pretty big hurdle. And putting myself out there and having those conversations was probably one of the hardest things for me. And I still struggle with that. Like, I don't like people to know, because I don't like the judgment that comes with it. But here we've had this conversation now, and we've spent quite a bit of time at it. And I realized, like, you probably don't even know, because it's not something I've talked about. And I'm thinking, no, because it's something I need to share, because it's a part of my story, it's part of my journey, and it gives hope. And I think if that's all that if I can give that to somebody else who goes through something like I did, then maybe they'll realize that there's still stuff out there to be done, and they can still hold on to their dreams, and they can still make them happen. But in August of 2019, well, actually July 31st, I had a stroke.
Wow.
I was very young. I was 42 years old, 3 weeks after my 42nd birthday. Yeah.
Did you have any type of impairments afterwards?
Yeah, I do. I actually have massive impairments. So it's why I've not been working in the healthcare field. Which was
I
really
would have
shocking.
no idea that you had a stroke. I mean, you look 100% functional to me.
And that's the problem. I'm good. I'm good until I get into an ER or an ICU and the alarms start going off and the adrenaline hits. I run in a chronic state of PTSD, and that shuts down your ability to access your frontal cortex, which is kind of our need to think area.
Yeah.
And when I'm in the process of trying to save someone's life, I need to be able to access my thought processes properly. And I've noticed a change in that. I've noticed that I'm locked out. Is the easiest way I can explain it. So when the amygdala in our brain kicks over and we get that fight or flight mode, our frontal cortex, we're not accessing our frontal cortex. We're literally living in that fight or flight adrenaline, more primal place of thought, which makes it really impossible to save someone's life, especially when you're working with like really, really important medications, doing calculations on the fly, knowing what you're seeing and realizing what's happening. Like, because sometimes symptoms show up and then you realize, oh, right? When they came in saying one thing and now you're seeing something completely different, but you got to be able to put that together. And I lived my life on that fly, like that adrenaline rush in the ICUs and the ER, you know, like that was my thing. And because I could manage it, I coped in that kind of, I coped in that environment. I did. I thrived in that environment. And the first time I got back after my stroke and started working my regular night shift and thinking things were okay, and something happened, and it was just like I shut down. And I was like, what the hell is this? Like, and it was so profound. It was noticeable. It was noticeable. And that was scary. And at first, people didn't believe that there was anything wrong with me. And I had to go through a couple of really incredible specialists who finally got me hooked up into the right test. And they're like, whoa, now we get what you're saying. I mean, I didn't have the right words to articulate, even though I was working in the industry. I'm not a neuroscientist. I'm a nurse, damn it. But when I kept saying, I can't access my brain the same way, they were like, that's not a normal comment. And when people say things like that, they're like, yeah, sure. Right. But when they realized what was going on, like I became very, very, very subject to effects from vibrations, like mechanical vibrations. I live on a flight line from Nellis Air Force Base. So when the jets go overhead or the helicopter, the downward rotor wash from the helicopters, when they come in low, about 3 minutes from a trauma center as well. When they come in low, I feel the pressure change in the air. I can hear the jets about 20 to 30 seconds before anybody else in the house does now. Because it's a weird way of hearing, but it's almost like I feel them in my system.
You sense them.
Yeah, the air conditioning goes on, the fridge kicks in, the washer and dryer are running. It's like, it's very much sensory overload, which helps also make it very hard to have that executive function focus. So I've been working really hard at learning techniques and studying that, and also treatments. I've undergone a lot of transcranial magnetic stimulation therapies, so it's into my brain. But it's driven that passion again in the first place, which is help others medically, you know, and making me realize it may not be in the exact same way I did it before, but it's still possible. It's still possible eventually, you know. We're working on it, and it's really cool to have like the support back behind me that believes that there's still the day to come, you know. And like, why Neuralink is a very cool thing to me. So I'm thinking like, whoa, what can we do? There's so many things that we could do with that, like, and how many people we could help with that, you know, and whatnot. But also, I think just understanding that there's a dream and somebody's saying that that's not possible, and here we are doing it, and Elon going, no, it is, and we'll make it happen. It just says it doesn't matter how out there, no pun intended, but how out there the dream is. It's possible. It's possible. I can't wait to see how long it takes us to land on Mars.
Yeah, I think it'll be in our lifetime. I mean, I still think us having a 1 million person city on Mars 2050 is very, very, very possible.
I think that's a cool idea. I don't know if I thought that, if I knew that that was what you thought was possible.
Well, I mean, that's what Elon's goal is. So.
Well, yeah, I guess you're right. It is. Maybe I did know that was Elon's goal, but I don't know why I didn't put that together. However, so now my thought process goes to a 1 million person city, which means that we'd have to build the industry for all of it.
Yep.
Like the infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
If you were offered like a position to do like your dream job and be what the first out there to do your dream job, would you go?
I would, absolutely.
But you wouldn't be the first to go in a launch?
You know, a lot of it has to do with risk and reward, right? I mean, going to Mars and being like the first settlers that enabled the next settlers and this whole new branch of humanity is very different than taking like a joyride.
True.
So
if your kid said that he wanted to go and you weren't sure.
You know, my kids are already doing things that I'm not sure about. So.
Great answer. Great answer.
I'm not sure it'd make any difference. It just convinces them they're right.
Oh my gosh. Oh my hell, my children would probably exactly the same, and they'd probably be the first to turn around and go, I told you, mom. I told you, mom. I got redheaded kids. That's the problem.
It doesn't matter what color their hair is. They're all that way.
We're a whole nother breed. Somebody asked me why we have red hair. It's because red is a warning sign in the natural environment. Have you not noticed? Red is usually a sign, keep away, don't touch, don't eat, don't play with.
I'm not sure cardinals feel that way.
What's that?
I'm not sure cardinals feel that way.
Well, maybe not cardinals and strawberries and raspberries, but if you don't know it and you like, it's generally a good idea. Like if it's red or black, you just don't play with it. Or you don't touch it or you don't eat it. Like if you're like out in the mountains or whatever, come across berries you're not familiar with, like red's a warning generally. Stop. We use it for a big old stop sign, you know. I'm like, that should be the warning sign, because like there's only 1%, like we're redhead blue-eyed, so we're 1% of the genetic population, and I'm like, that says it all right there. 1% of the genetic population is enough of us.
That may be a requirement to go to Mars. I mean, could you imagine?
Yeah, getting picked for our genes because we got red hair.
Oh,
my daughter would be all about that. She's like, the joke would be on them because she's a lesbian. She'd be like, I'm not having kids. Just going for the adventure. That's so funny.
Well, yeah, I mean, nobody going to Mars may have kids. You know, at that point, you might be having artificial wombs and bringing
Right.
eggs and sperm, you know, that way you could have like a big genetic diversity and stuff. So
and doing, you know, DNA altering and building the perfect species. Because if we're
well,
able to do all that,
you know, a
they are
perfection
doing. They're able.
perfection is a measurement of conformity.
Okay, you're right. You're right. What we perceive, and when I say we, I guess what the science, I don't know what science shows to be the most genetically advanced or preferred.
Mm.
And again, that's all perception, right? But if we could maybe genetically alter things out that are like genetic diseases that causes, or maybe the being exposed to COVID, and we can stop that from being a death sentence or something like that, you know, like we figure out how to protect us as a being and have better immunity, things like that. I bet, and like if we're having, you know, artificial wombs and we're making babies in test tubes and we're growing them in artificial environments, then hopefully we'd be doing stuff like that so that we don't have those same sort of problems for the population out there. You know, it'd be kind of nice to not have to worry about those kind of things.
Yeah.
But then if we cure ourselves of everything, what's going to stop us from not dying? I don't think I want to live that old. I mean, you did say it though. If I could live in a 20-year-old's body and have the mind of a like, I don't know, someone who's 1,000 years old, that would be another story.
Yeah.
That might be worth like signing up for.
Yeah, your memory palace would be like a huge, tall, you know, space elevator type of a building.
So long as, you know, memory loss. But then you know, you could be just experiencing life over and over and over again and enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What was the quote? Even the gods struggle with boredom.
Yes. Probably more so than we do.
Yeah. They're like, I've seen that before. Yeah.
I've done that. I know how to win this.
You're only the 20th billionth person to make that mistake.
Right. Know how to play the perfect game, know how to like hit the perfect ball. There's like, there would be nothing that they wouldn't have experienced a billion times over.
Yeah.
That would
In
be
fact,
boring.
they're all in hibernation waiting for us to mature enough to be challenging.
Yes. Wait until we're that species.
Yeah.
That would be fun. That would be fun. Elon, I think, is just one of those people. He's just already on that way, you know? I think maybe he's just not human.
Oh, well, I mean, we can have the whole discussion about what is human.
We could, because you have to separate spirit and ego and the actual biologics of it versus consciousness, and what is consciousness, and whether or not we're individuals or are we part of a whole consciousness, higher consciousness.
Yeah, like Andy Weir's The Egg. I don't know if you've seen that.
No.
Yeah, so he wrote a short story about how we are all one being, not like we're the same being at different points in time and space. Like this whole thing is supposed to kind of
the universal
mature.
Consciousness.
Well, not even universal consciousness, but we're actually literally the same person. Like,
yeah, just experiencing different parts of that. Okay, I'm following.
Yeah, but there's some YouTube videos that have been created based upon the story. They're kind of good. I'll send you the link.
I'd be interested in seeing that. It's interesting because I mean, I do subscribe quite easily to the universal consciousness in the sense that I think we're connected energetically. I think at the foundation of everything, we're all energy. And if you look at energy and how energy moves, like we go point A to point B logically, we think that way, but the way energy moves is it goes in every which direction to every which various point, you know, like to get to its destination. which is a lot for our brains to wrap themselves around. But knowing that energy is frequency and vibration, and that's how it moves. And there's more space between everything. Like there's more space in us than there is anything else. Like it just, we feel like we're solid and we're not. And just understanding how that all comes together, but knowing that everything from fundamentally everything is like everything at its core is energy, and all of that is connected. I think that's something that we need to maybe as humans not just remember that that's us, but also everything, like the world around us, every species, the actual earth, everything above us that we're exploring. There's just, to understand how to utilize that would be a very and really utilize it for the right reasons, be a very cool thing to be able to do, and just comprehend what that means for us. I mean, I think, I know you're having your experience and I'm having my experience, and my kids are having their experience, and their experience started 20 years after mine did, as we understand it in time. But if it's all happened and it's all going to happen, like if it's all happened and everything that we deem as the future's already happened, come to be, and it's all happening at the same time and space, quantum, start looking at that from a really different perspective, and how that applies to us, and what we're capable of. It would be so much more than being excited about putting Starship into the sky, just getting a hold of that, understanding it, being able to utilize it, and realizing that it's not all just 3 dimensions. There's other dimensions available to that. And we talked about aliens, and there's this theory that the nuclear bombs and nuclear tests that we do is very damaging to the 4th dimension of this fabric of space, and that we could be potentially not just putting ourselves at risk, but maybe all of the universe. And then, is that just this part, or is that the bigger one out there? Our little one, the one that's ever expanding. It's all, there's all these really cool things, and I'm thinking we're lucky we're at the place we are in science, that it's like we all know that space exists, and we all know that we revolve around the sun on this spaceship that we're on, but it's quite intriguing to find out what we don't know or what we're learning. Just think, that's why I think Elon's just one of those, like, maybe he was put here to stretch our capabilities, or stretch our ability to dream a little, or maybe he's just put here because they needed to put somebody else here, like to get us to move in the right direction. I don't know.
Like these key changers and movers throughout time: Newton, Einstein,
Tesla.
What is it? Galileo.
Mm-hmm.
Who was the geometry guy back in the Greek times? Pythagoras. Yeah.
Oh yes. Yeah, I mean, like all of them. Yeah, like you think of Einstein, like with direct current, and Tesla with alternating current, and how they thought Tesla was just this weird guy, but look at our energy grids, alternating current, right? And just
and Edison used alternating current
Edison.
For the death chair, just to show how dangerous
It was Edison. It was, yeah, it was Tesla and Edison.
Exactly.
Yeah, Edison had the direct current, and he used the alternating current to like electrocute, what was it, a dog or something?
Oh, I mean, they created the
electric chair with it
execution.
too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the
Exactly,
execution
yeah.
chair. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just kind of like, whoa, you know, but you know, there's always going to be these people that are, like you said, the thinkers of their time, in some ways the dreamers of their time. You know, they're allowing these ideas to come to fruition. But I find that what's been really interesting to me is a lot of them have always said that those ideas, these things, like Tesla was one of these people that said that he couldn't take credit for the knowledge that he was gifted. Like, it was like it came to him in these flashes, these almost like he could watch him on a TV screen in front of his eyes, you know. And he always said that it was just accessing information that was already there. It was gifted to him, you know. And but there's a lot of them that say that. If you look at those kind of like some of the major dreamers or thinkers, they'll say that this gift doesn't belong to me, you know. And I think that's pretty profound. You start hearing some of these people speak and or read about their life and how they came about sort of using their gifts. They turn around and they say, well, it's not mine.
Justine Musk, Elon Musk's first wife, you know, she has a TED talk she gives about how the darkness of creativity, of taking things out of the dark and bringing it into the light. You know, it's like these creations to some extent maybe exist, but they're just hidden from us. And it's a matter of shining light on them and bring them into view.
Right. Or maybe not so much, like, again, the information's there, or the idea was in existence. It was just a matter of getting it to the right person at the right time to make sure that it was something that we could use, you know.
Or explaining it in a way that the masses can understand, or waiting for the masses to move to the point where they could understand it. I mean, today you talk about an app on the iPhone, people are like, oh yeah, but you try to talk about an app on the iPhone in the 1970s, people would be like, and why would I carry a computer? Yeah, it's like
right. And you know, and it makes me wonder, like, what's your thoughts about going back, like, to the Egyptian times?
I know. I mean, there's so much lost knowledge, you know, that we have in terms of how to deal with, you know, how to hunt, you know. I mean, like, why bother remembering how to hunt whenever you can, you know, just grow the animal and kill it when you're ready, you know?
Well, and there's, like, if you look at the Pyramid of Giza, and you look at the Queen's Chamber, and then you look at the King's Chamber, and you look at the connection between those, and you look at the fact that there's chemical residue within those chambers. There's theory that they were making particle beams, and it was a large device. And when you start looking at how they line up with the stars and Orion's belt, and what does that, like, I wonder how much of this knowledge we've had in the past and really gotten to a place where we've sort of kind of self-destructed with it because we weren't prepared to handle it, or we didn't handle it well. And then here we are redoing it again. Like, there's, like, if you look at, like, even in the Mayan temples, and like they're finding more and more of these, like, massive, like the Snake Kings and all of that kind of stuff. You know, how they utilized some of this stuff, like mercury, and why it was used, and like how did they mine all the gold, and how did they make these polished crystals that, like, look so like, we use tools you know, to get to what they were doing before, and sort of, there's all this stuff that we've lost.
And then what's up with all the trepidation, you know, all these previous people cutting, like, holes in their skull, like, what motivated them to do that? But Liz, I feel like you and I could probably talk for days and weeks.
I was thinking that myself. I looked at my phone. I don't know if you saw that, and I realized I've ignored. I don't know. But that's okay.
But
I'm good with that.
if you ever come to Houston, I have to give you a tour of Johnson Space Center, or at least the visitor center.
That. So, I would love that. And hopefully, I think I've been through Houston on my way to Dallas. But I've said I need to go to. I've said very many times that there's a few reasons why I need to get out to Houston, and now I have another one, another good reason. But thank you for including me on this, and I'm hoping that I'm not your longest and most crazy interview. But
I think you may be the second longest.
So I said, that's why they would never have taken me to space. They wouldn't have been able to. They've been like throwing me out the window. That Coppola, they've been like, "Can we open this just long enough to shove her out?"
No, I'm sure they would have loved to have you there.
I don't know. It's like I know how it can be. This is one of the things that has happened since my stroke. I lose all sort of sense of time. So
no
that's
worries.
Not a good thing.
We're like driven too much by the clock anyway, so it might be a blessing.
This has been a blessing for me, but absolutely, because it's not often I share a lot of my thoughts for fear, really, because I think that people will take them like I'm weird. But I've been encouraged to like explore the intellectual side and really just not hide in my fear. And realize that there's a lot to be of service to me and to others just by sharing my thoughts, and certainly listening to others and just sort of exploring these kind of conversations. So I'm grateful for the invite. I'm grateful, but had I taken you up on it earlier, I probably wouldn't have had as much openness. And so I'm glad, for whatever reason we had the delay, we had it. And I look forward to seeing the end of this as it comes to its conclusion. And I can't wait to hear what your summary of it all is going to be and what you are going to do with it all. What are you going to do with it all? Are you really going to write a book or something?
I have no idea. I have no end game right now. My game right now is just simply to try to keep up with the daily interviews. I haven't missed a day yet. So I plan, my number one priority is just not to miss a day. But it's very possible at the end of all this, well, I think we have to have a huge party at the end of 2024. That's one thing. But
I'm with you.
I think I might just let it sit for a few years and then come and revisit it 5 or 10 years later and just
see where we're at.
Exactly. Yeah.
See what we've accomplished.
Something like that. Yeah.
So you said 2024, 10 years.
End of 2024. Yeah.
2034, only 15 years to that 2050. So we would have a good idea of whether we're on track for that million population there on Mars.
Oh, exactly. We should at least have 10 by that point.
You would hope, right? I guess it depends on how we're populating it.
And we should not call the colony Roanoke. I just saying.
No, please don't. I hope they
Maybe
don't.
like New Brownsville or something like that.
just to give Texas to give Brownsville that they feel okay if we move it. That they'll get their bid in the end.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they're ever going to be around to see I don't know. Maybe they will be. There's a lot of youngins still there. So
yeah.
I don't know if I'll be around for 2050.
You should be. Yeah. You'd be like 75. Well, you'll be 73. I'll be 75.
It'll be what it is. I don't know if I plan on living that long.
That's not old. Life begins at 50. Everything before that's just practice.
Is that? Are you sure? Because I don't want to practice any of this other stuff that I've done already.
I mean, that's the belief I'm going with. That's the belief I'm going with.
You let me know. You'll have 2 years advance on me, so or year in advance on me. So you let me know when you get there. Okay. So I got 2 years to make a decision whether or not it's worth it.
It's always worth
Anyways,
it.
You're right. I mean, we could talk forever. And if you ever want, I'll haul somebody in else to. I've got kids. They
Oh,
can
that'd be
interview.
awesome. I do
I'll
need that
talk to
from
them.
time
I'll
to
say,
time.
I'm curious to hear what they would have to say. I'm curious to think, you know, is their mom just crazy, or if they've got similar thoughts? You know, it would be interesting to have somebody else pick their brain and really hearing them afterwards, like what their thoughts about it all is. You know, it's not something that we talk about, so it'd be really cool. I'll see if I can get them to sign up, and I'll forward them your link.
That'd be awesome. Hey, 1,097 more days to go. So yeah.
We'll get there. You'll get there. But if it's okay, I can forward it out.
Oh, please. No, any and everybody.
Okay.
Yeah. And it doesn't, even if they're like anti-space, that's good too.
That's part of it. That's
Yeah,
a part of the whole
absolutely.
thing, though. There's going to be a whole bunch of, you said before COVID, you were going to think that most people just didn't like
I was just
space.
people at the Starbucks, at on the streets, at the mall, now going up to people randomly and saying, hey, can we talk about the moon? Before COVID, it was a little questionable, but going up to random people after COVID is definitely not easy.
I'm sure it's not. And when they're like, okay, what about the moon? But putting that into perspective, I don't think people even understand how important the moon is to our survival here on Earth.
Yeah.
You take the moon away, you can take away the currents of the ocean, or the waves of the ocean, right? You take away that gravitational pull, which then would shut down a lot of the cyclic activity of the ocean, which means that ocean life would come to cease.
Oh, exactly. I mean, theoretically,
and then we would.
I mean, one thought was like tidal pools provide like the perfect place to like concentrate some of the early organic molecules that actually was where life began. And about the moon, you wouldn't have tides, and without tides, you wouldn't have tidal pools.
Yeah,
So.
and they are. You think, oh, tidal pools. Like a kid, I used to play in one. We don't even realize how delicate the balance is in a tidal pool. Like the biological balance that's going on in that tidal pool is very delicate. And here we are, we go and we're playing them, and we hermit crabs or whatever.
Building launch sites right in the middle of them.
Elon doesn't care. No, I shouldn't say that. He's doing his best to protect every tidal pool nearby. I would hope. I think.
Yeah.
I hope.
And anyway, it's challenging. But well, Liz, I better let you go. And it was so good to talk to you and connect.
It was good to connect as well. And thank you so much for doing this. Like I said, I'm excited to see the end result when the time comes, when you decide what that end result is going to be. But also thank you for being a part of the Inspiration 4-2 crew, or Inspiration 2-4 crew, and certainly reaching out. And it's been one of the more welcoming, one of the first welcoming phases for me, way back at the days of the launch. So it's been a pleasure to actually get to see you in person and have this conversation in person, not just in text.
Absolutely. Okay, well, you have a good rest of your evening, and let's stay in touch.
Please do. All right. Good night.
Good night. Bye-bye.